After a little early season break, your Golden State Warriors take the court once again tomorrow against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, before we get to that game, we have some major news to discuss on him, and on him. Yes, Jonathan Kuminga, Steph Curry, and Draymond Green. We have the latest that you need to know here on Warriors Today by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Tyler Smith, and before we get into all of it, make sure you are subscribed to the channel, folks. What you get when you hit that subscribe button? Daily free Golden State Warriors shows. Whatever you need to know surrounding your Dubs, we're going to bring it to you right here on the channel. You also get live streams as well. We go live for a ton of Warriors games all season long, and we're almost at our next milestone of 101.5 thousand subscribers. Just need 335 more members of Dub Nation to go down below and hit the subscribe button to get there, and you'll get free Warriors content all the time when you do. All right, some great news here for the Warriors in the injury front. Steph looks like he will be making his return back to the Golden State Warriors on Friday against Minnesota. That had been the plan, really, from Steve Kerr's comments last week. They were holding him out of this road trip, and now that they had this little mini in-season break with the NBA Cup going on and nobody really playing games, it gave Steph ample time to rest and recover from this quad contusion that he's really had here, and it looks like he'll be back out on the floor on Friday. Steve Kerr said it's looking good. And Slater, Anthony Slater of ESPN, had the following on the specifics. He said, after he was cleared, Curry was a full participant in all contact portions of the workout and took part in a 6-minute scrimmage without issue. Kerr said he expects Curry to practice Thursday before receiving the green light on Friday for a Friday return from his 5-game absence. Now, during his absence, the Warriors have gone 2-3, so they haven't been the worst. They haven't been the best, but clearly we know that this team lives and dies with number 30 out there. Now, I will say, the Warriors, they may have been an even worse off spot. They actually may have gone 0-5, if not for this demon right here. Shout out to Pat Spencer. In Steph Curry's absence, has been balling, man. Over the past 4 games or so, he's averaged like 17 a game on like 60% shooting, 75% from three-point range. Steve Kerr has championed his improved jump shot as the reason for this elevated role this season. And Pat Spencer also came out and said that he turned down a bunch of bigger offers, more standard contract offers from other teams around the league to come back to Golden State. So shout out to Pat Spencer and shout out to Steph Curry, who's coming back in the Golden State Warriors lineup. Welcome him back to the Dubs here by dropping a 30 down in the comment section. Show him some love because he deserves it. He carries this franchise on his back. All right, a new report came out from an NBA insider, Jake Fischer. He came out and said that the Warriors would be willing to trade Draymond Green, but maybe I should have thrown an asterisk on that caption there because it's not for many talents around the NBA. Here's what Fischer had to say. The only player I think in the league that Golden State would be willing to move Draymond Green for would be for Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's the only player. Between him and Jonathan Kuminga and Brandin Podziemski, all of a sudden, Golden State probably does have an intriguing package if you're Milwaukee. But I don't think that they're going to be pushing Draymond's salary onto the table or Jimmy Butler's salary for anyone short of him, meaning Giannis Antetokounmpo, of course. Now, look, is it all that likely that a trade ends up, materializing, or really any phone calls end up materializing for Giannis Antetokounmpo? Probably not. But I'm bringing an OG meme back for this one. If you guys were around in the iFunny days and the white text up top with white text on the bottom type of meme days, you know this one from Nicolas Cage. You don't say. I mean, of course they would trade Draymond Green in order to get Giannis Antetokounmpo. Oh, an aging Draymond Green who doesn't provide much scoring ability, undersized. He's still a great defender and a great playmaker, but turns the ball over a lot as well. No, really, they would trade him for Draymond Green? What a report. What a report that was. Look, this is probably how the conversation went between Jake Fischer and whatever source that he got this report from. If the source probably told him that the Warriors are not trading Draymond Green, really under any circumstance. But if the opportunity arose for Giannis to come join Golden State, yeah, of course they would make the trade and trade Draymond Green. And I don't even think Milwaukee would want Draymond coming back in any package. I would assume he would get moved to a third team of some sort, maybe another contender around the league when that contender ships off some more rebuilding type assets over to Milwaukee in order to get that Draymond deal done. But again, I don't see a Giannis Antetokounmpo trade really materializing for the Golden State Warriors. I just don't think they have a real package. Jake Fischer says they have a package. I kind of disagree for the most part because we're going to talk about another headliner of what that package would be. Jonathan Kuminga, who has recently been DNP'd by Steve Kerr, and I think Steve Kerr really spoke on the trade rumors surrounding Jonathan Kuminga for the first time. We're going to talk about JK on the second half of today's show. But first, I got to tell you guys about our sponsor. And that, of course, is PrizePicks. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. With the holiday season here, you got basketball matchups, playoff pushes, and bowl games all happening at once. And with us making a ton of decisions during this time on what gifts to buy, what to eat, which games to watch, there's one place where making these decisions and being right on them can get you paid. And that is PrizePicks, the best daily fantasy sports app in the game. When you download it, all you guys got to do is pick a lineup of 2 to 6 players and just pick more or less on their projected stats. It's not just basketball. They got college sports, they got football, they got hockey, they got everything. And you can mix and match all these sports in the same lineup. You can also put multiple stat projections from the same player in one lineup using their brand new Stacks feature. You can also copy lineups from friends, from celebrities, even myself in the lineup you see in front of your screen using the brand new Feed tab. I have Dalton Kincaid more than 41.5 receiving yards against the New England Patriots this weekend. I got James Cook with a stack right there, 2 stat projections, more than 19 rushing attempts, and more than half a rushing and receiving touchdown. And then Mac Hollins. They got some fun squares and some fun categories and stat projections you can choose from. I have more than 16.5 yards on his longest reception. You can tell my picks or fade them. Just do it at PrizePicks. And new users, you're getting hooked up. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. Kuminga. You knew we would talk about him again. Look, it's going to be the topic of conversation for the next 6 weeks. It is just the reality of the situation, folks. The Warriors still have 16 games remaining before they can trade Jonathan Kuminga, so we're going to keep talking about him because that's likely what's going to happen. Steve Kerr did weigh in on Kuminga's response to the benching and really the trade rumors, which we'll get to in a second, but this is a part of his response to the DMP from Kerr here. He said he had a great practice today, and we had a lot to talk about before practice. And he did the things that I asked him to do, and I was thrilled about that. I think there are a lot of young players, not just JK, but lots of young players around the league. They have to find themselves. They have to figure out who they are as a player. And I think that's important for JK, and every experience is an important one. I'm going to keep coaching him, and as he said the other day, we have a good relationship. The combinations, the fit, all the stuff that's been going on for a few years, we know that, and I'm not going to shy away from that. I think it's pretty obvious, and I do feel for him that he's sort of at the whim of my decision-making based on what I want to see out there from our team. Let's not sit here and act like Kuminga is blameless the whole situation. There's a reason that he is at the whim of your decision-making, Steve Kerr. Like, he looks disengaged, he doesn't play a complimentary role, and then when he's trying to go into business for himself, he either turns the ball over or misses the jumper. So, of course he's going to take it out of the lineup. Like, we should stop feeling bad for Jonathan Kuminga. Like, I get it. He's been jostled around the rotation in and out and all this stuff. He's 23 years old. He really hasn't gotten the full, investment into him being the star. But how could you be? You're on a team with Wardell. Now, this championing of sorts from Steve Kerr, this boosting up of Jonathan Kuminga, it doesn't mean that they're not trading him. Here's what he had to say. This is really the first time we've heard Steve Kerr talk about Jonathan Kuminga finding a new home. He said it's not impacting anything for us, the trade rumors surrounding JK. So you'd have to ask him. I can imagine it's not easy for him. And we've talked about the situation. My desire for JK is to become the best player he could possibly be, regardless of where he ends up, whether it's here or elsewhere. Now, we've heard Mike Dunleavy say those things before, not Steve Kerr, though. He said, I tell my guys a lot. There's so few players who end up playing for one team their entire career. It rarely happens. I played for 6 different teams. None of us know what's going to happen with JK or pretty much any of our guys, although I would advise Mike Dunleavy not to trade Steph Curry. Of course you would. But that kind of sound. And then, look, we're not going to sit here and act like this is some brand new development from Steve Kerr. It's not. He's just saying the quiet part out loud for the first time now. Like, he knows that Jonathan Kuminga is probably going to get traded. Jonathan Kuminga knows he's probably going to get traded. Like, it seems like both sides kind of have an understanding now. Kuminga handled the situation well, probably better than he has in the past because he knows his days in Golden State are numbered. He's going to be moving on to his next destination pretty soon here. So, kind of just got to ride the situation out until it resolves. Keith Smith talked about the trade possibilities for Jonathan Kuminga. And he said for the team itself, the Warriors are going to try to add some functional depth. They need enough good players to get through the rest of the season because they'll need to manage their veterans. But they need players who will be a part of the 8 or 9 man rotation come playoff time too. That's how Golden State will use Jonathan Kuminga, either to add depth to fill out the rotation or as the main chunk of salary matching to add one more star to their aging core. Well, who could that star be? There's really only one star outside of Giannis right now. And again, Giannis is not coming to Golden State, especially this season. Anthony Davis. Trade rumors are hot surrounding AD. We could talk more about Anthony Davis here in a future video because there's certainly interest around the league. Golden State's getting floated in a bunch of different packages for AD. But remember what the report just came out from Jake Fischer before. They're probably not going to trade Draymond Green just for Anthony Davis. So that deal's not happening because they're not trading Jimmy Butler. They're not trading Steph. They would trade JK, but you can't even compile a bunch of other Warriors contracts together to go out there and get Anthony Davis. That's the only star package that JK could possibly be a chunk of at this point. And guess what? It's not happening unless they trade Draymond, which they're not doing unless they get Giannis, which is not happening. So who could Jonathan Kuminga be traded for? We're going to talk about 5 names on today's show, and I think they're all very realistic, to be quite honest with you. Let's start with Herb Jones, the defensive mastermind down there in New Orleans. Doesn't provide the most offensive versatility. Not a guy who can put the ball on the deck too much, and that is an issue. Golden State doesn't have enough guys who can put the ball on the deck and score it, but he can hit the outside shot, and he can defend 1 through 5. One of the best defenders in the NBA. I would be in on bringing him to Golden State if Jonathan Kuminga was part of that package. Miles Turner, we talked about him a little bit on yesterday's show. He's been underwhelming, incredibly underwhelming so far in his Milwaukee Bucks tenure. Makes about $25 million a year, though, so a deal wouldn't be too difficult to materialize. But I don't know. I think the Warriors need a wing, a scoring wing, who can take some weight off of Jimmy's and Steph's shoulders on a nightly basis. We thought that could be Jonathan Kuminga, but clearly it just hasn't worked out at this point. So they need somebody to replace him a little bit more than I think that they need a center add depth to that front court. Speaking of, what about Michael Porter Jr.? I think this would cost a lot now, though. He has been balling up there in Brooklyn so far this year, and you could argue it's empty stats. The Nets are winning no games, but MPJ has been really, really good since his departure from Denver. It would probably cost a good bit. He also costs a good bit. You'd have to probably include Buddy Hield and a little bit more in that trade to go out there and get MPJ, but yeah, I would be all over bringing him to Golden State. Also, would be all over bringing Zubats. I mean, one of the best centers in the league, bar none. You would probably have to cough up a couple of first-round picks and Jonathan Kuminga to get that done, but I'm all in, man. He's an elite shot blocker, an elite rebounder, an elite rim runner. What more could you want in Golden State? Trey Murphy, though, that's the guy. I'm telling you right now, Trey Murphy. He is going to be a 25-point-per-game scorer at some point during his career. Will it be with the Golden State Warriors? Probably not until Steph and Jimmy are done, but he's a 21-point-per-game scorer now. He's an elite defender and slasher, and he can hit the outside shot. He can do a lot of things in this league, and he can solve a lot of problems for your Golden State Warriors. That's my number one trade target when it comes to Jonathan Kuminga. You'd probably have to attach a couple first-round picks to him as well. With that being said, pick one. Out of these 5 players, who are all very good in their own right, pick one that the Warriors should trade Jonathan Kuminga for. Let me know who that is down in the comments section. As that will do it for today's show, youtube.com/WarriorsTV. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We'll be live again very, very soon for Warriors games, so we'll see you guys all then. And as always, let's go Dubs.